Question 6. On the set of axes below, graph the piecewise function f of x equals negative 1/2 x when x is less than 2, and f of x equals x when x is greater than or equal to 2. So what we really want to do is take a piece of the first function and graph it with a piece of the second function. So let's go to our TI Nspire graphing calculator. So home screen, new doc, say no to drugs, and add a graph page. So our first function, control divide negative 1/2 x, and press enter. That's our first graph. Now we press tab to get our command line, and our second function is just f of x equals x. What we want to do is take a piece of this function and put it together with a piece of this function to create our piecewise function. So we're going to press the tab key. Now we have a new command line, but what we need is the piecewise command. So right on the right-hand side of the number 9 key is the template key. In the templates, we are looking for the open bracket with commas because we need our function and then we need the parameter with it. So we press enter. That gives us our piecewise command. So now we put in our first function, control divide, negative 1/2 x. But remember, our parameter says x must be less than. So control equals, to get our less than command, 2. Now our other function is just f of x equals x. And this time our parameter is when x is greater than or equal to 2. Now we press enter. Notice the piecewise function overlaps those two functions that we had. But the most important thing is we can't have the extended graphs of these functions. So what I'm going to do is go back to my command line and actually turn off those first two functions. The only reason I put them there was so you could see that this function is part of this function and that this is part of this one. So let's turn those functions off. So tab, arrow up to the first function, and I'll just click that arrow. I turned off the blue, but the piece of the function is still there. I turned off the red, and notice the piece of that function is still there. So now I want to graph this function on my paper just the way I see it. So I'm going to start with menu 5, 3. Remember, when we set a trace step, we always want our trace step to be 1. Now, when I do menu 5, 1, I can do a graph trace. So I want to go to the far right-hand side of my graph, and I'm going to plot the point 10, 10. Now, right here is 9, 9. I'm not going to plot that point, though. I'm going to go all the way to the other end of this line segment because what I want is to work smarter, not harder. I need the point 2, 2, and then I can just connect the dots. So that's the first piece of my piecewise function. Now, when I arrow to the left, I jump to the next function. But notice, it didn't even want to go to the very end. I have to work my way back over there, and it says to -1. Stop. This is dangerous. Notice, we've already got a point on our function, where x is 2. If we plot 2, -1 as another point on our graph, this isn't a function anymore. It fails the vertical line test. We've got a cheating x there. So what I have to do is put an open circle at 2, -1. Now, our distinction about the open circle. My function f of x equals x when x is greater than 2 means that I've got an equal sign at the point 2, 2. Since I have that equal sign, this circle is closed. But up here, for the -1/2 x, that function has a less than sign only. So that open circle goes with the less than symbol. So therefore, this is not a point on my graph. It's merely a placeholder. So now I'm going to work my way all the way to the left edge of my graph. And I get to the point -10, 5. So that's the next point that I'm going to plot on my paper. So notice I plotted and labeled the important points on the graph. I took my lines to the edge of the graph, and I made sure not to extend these functions beyond where the pieces go. That's why we really want to use the piecewise template in the graphing calculator. So our final step is to label the graph with the parameters included, and this is full credit for question number 6.